Let's go. David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade. Main event and great card. We had Roach beating Garcia, Matias retaining the title, Charlo with a solid performance, and then David Benavidez finishing Andrade. On this episode of more of Sports Social Live. Let's get it. What's going on, boxing fans? We had a phenomenal card today with David Benavidez and Demetrius Andrade taking the main event. It was a great card, and I like what I saw here for boxing fans and betting fans alike. You know what we got? We got some championship fights. We had 2 stoppages on the stool and some thumping. A lot of thumping, nice scoring throughout the card. So in this episode of Sports Social Live, we're going to talk about that Lamont Roach taking that victory over Hector Garcia. Then we're going to talk about Matias retaining the title, Charlo with his solid performance, a return performance for Houston H-Town's own Charlo, and then we'll talk about David Benavidez finishing Andrade. So let's roll into it. With Roach fighting Garcia, I had Garcia coming in having a better performance. He had a kind of an off 12 rounds previously before this. I say he faded in the last 1.5 of his fights, but I thought this fight would have been better for him as he came into the fight against Roach. Lamont Roach, DC, Maryland, DMV's finest. He came out and he fought a smart fight from the beginning to end bell, and he capped it off with a phenomenal knockdown in the last rounds. A little bit of a sketchy knockdown, but a knockdown nonetheless. It was scored a knockdown. So Roach came out into the first round and he established the pace. I like the jab and how he's using top and bottom, establishing the levels of that first round. As the pace picked up in round 2, both guys were countering each other. They did a good job of countering Hector Luis Garcia. It seemed like he was setting up those counter punchers, taking his time with lower volume. And it was a slow tempo altogether throughout the fight, but both corners seemed pretty happy. Garcia came out in the third round and he started pushing the pace, and he did a good job at that. Something that I thought he would do a little bit more, but he started pushing the pace in that third and fourth round. Roach came back landing counter punches as the fight went on, and then Garcia established a little bit more of a pace going into that fourth, fifth, sixth round time frame. Both guys seemed to escalate and ascend with their tempo as the fight went on, and I liked what I saw from Roach. Roach was scoring effectively. He sustained performance throughout the fight, and that's how he just was able to wear down Garcia. Garcia seemed to get a little bit too comfortable. His corner direction seemed a little funny to me. Just the whole time they were telling him that he was okay and he needed to keep on doing what he was doing. But I thought he needed to be a little bit more effective on some of the punching. Roach's defense was nice throughout the fight. That's what I think set him apart. Garcia was never really able to get effective, clean punching scored consistently, and that's a problem that Garcia had, and it showed as the fight wore on. And then towards the 8th and 9th rounds, you saw Roach starting to establish a little bit of tempo. In that 8th round, Garcia had an effective round for him, and he was able to score a little bit more effectively. But ultimately, I think Roach kind of just finished off the fight with sustained performance. And then in that last round, I got you, Corey. Roach screams, "I got you, Corey," to the sideline and corner, and he went in and got that KD in the last round, scoring that knockdown with that 10-8 round, got him over the edge. The cards were a little bit funny, though. They had a couple of cards that were given to Garcia. I didn't agree with that card that was given to Garcia. And the card I agreed with was the 116-111, which how I scored the fight. I saw the sustained performance from Roach to the body. He was effectively scoring, and he landed those power punches against Garcia. So shout out to Lamont Roach for a good comeback victory, bringing that title home. And, Garcia fought a good fight. He fought Tank before. I thought he would kind of do better and ascend a little bit more right there. But he took that L, and he's going to go back, have to come and fight another fight again. So what are your thoughts on that Roach fight? Y'all let me know down in the comments. Subscribe, like, and share the Sports Social Live. I appreciate everybody giving me good feedback, working on the audio. But let's talk about that Matias versus Ergushev fight. I like Matias. I'm a fan of Matias. I thought this fight would have went the way that it had gone, But coming out the gate, Ergushev came out thumping. He came out doing that good crunk style offense with a solid left jab. And it was solid. It was tough. I was surprised that he was able to effectively score like he was at will against Matias. Matias came out. He was fighting for something. You could tell he was focused. He used good offensive and defensive skill. He was in the shell a little bit, which surprised me, but he kept pressuring on the front foot and he was rolling. That first round, Shev came out with a huge thumping, thudding left jab, kind of scoring at will with that left jab. Second round, he did the same thing as Matias continued to download. Then at third, fourth, and fifth round, it was just all Matias from there. I'm talking about nice scoring, pressure on the front foot, walking down Ergushev, and it just looked like Ergushev didn't even need to be in the United States. He did not need to be there because that once he found that pressure, he had him just hooked. Left hook, right hook, spinning Ergushev, just pushing him back at will. Phenomenal fight, and I'd like to see where he goes next. At the end of the fight, Matias called out Tio, Tank, and Haney, and he deserved to do that because he put on a show. He brought out the fans. He was a good fan. Has a fan-friendly style. So I like what I saw from Matias. I hope the real Matias gets an opportunity at one of those big names. I don't mind seeing him against Haney, Tank, or Tio. Who do you think Matias should fight next? Of course, there's promoters. Of course, there's networks. Of course, there's drama. But in a perfect world, who do you think Matias should fight next? So now we can talk about the Charlo fight. Charlo versus Jose Benavidez Jr. was built up a little bit as like a rust-breaking fight for Charlo and Jose Benavidez Jr., a chance for him to get on the same card as his brother and, make Charlo compete and hopefully get his name back up into that just an area where he's able to compete more. I think Jose Benavidez Jr. is just a good competitive warrior. You can put him in a ring and he gets you some good rounds. I like his talent. I like his skill level for what he brings to the ring. But I definitely thought that Charlo was he's more of a talent. Charlo is a talent. And I like what I saw from Charlo this entire fight. He showed me that he was able to conquer that adversity that he was able throughout the year. So just looking at a few things, Charlo just came out and established the jab. A solid jab. And that's what he did. Ronnie Shields had him working. He said he came in there only on 3 weeks of training camp, came in overweight. Everything didn't look good walking into the fight and walking into the ring. But Charlo showed that he still has that skill to fall back on, and he did it. The jab was working and effective. And once the fight started going, he piled it on from the fourth round on. It was all Charlo. Benavidez did have some scoring flurries. They just weren't effective. Charlo was just thudding with the jab, uppercut, jab, hook. The left jab was his bread and butter, and I keep repeating it because that's all I saw during the fight. He was knotting up Benavidez. But Benavidez is a warrior, and it made it to the 10 rounds scheduled fight. And we saw Charlo get the unanimous decision and a decisive victory against a smaller but warrior type of guy, Jose Benavidez Jr. So what does Charlo do next? Now that's what we have to see. Does Charlo fight the loser of the David Benavidez Andrade fight, which is a smart move? Does Charlo go out and get one of those guys, those upcoming prospects like Edgar Berlanga? Maybe. Or does he go fight another one of those Eastern European type guys at 168? I want to see what Charlo does. I don't think he goes back to 160. He does have a good working relationship with the WBC, but I don't see him going back down to 160. It's just kind of no point, and he looked huge in the ring. Shout out to Jamal Charlo. Great win. Good job conquering mental health. You did a good one. Let me know how you think Charlo did this fight. All right. Now to the main event. David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade. Now, this fight was being built up for a small while. I want to say a long time, but a good enough time for us to see they were both chasing Canelo throughout their time periods, especially Andrade. He should have been fighting Canelo at 154 and 160, and David Benavidez is the same. I like what David Benavidez has, the monster, a Bandera Roja. he did a phenomenal job building up into this fight against Caleb Plant. And then Andrade, building up a 15-year career, former Olympian, built his name, did not have the promoters. The business of boxing failed him, and he came into this ring to avenge all the wrongs that have been done to him. But at the end of the night, David Benavidez finished Demetrius Andrade. Corner called it off. A corner stoppage for David Benavidez. He takes the win here and retains his WBC belt and his stake going towards Canelo Alvarez. It was a good fight. I mean, from the beginning, Andrade came out early and he did what he had to do to establish the pace, going around the ring. He used the ring well, He dug to the body on David Benavidez. He effectively scored in that first round. Going into the second round, Andrade continues to pick up that pace, and he has a few flurries against David Benavidez, but David Benavidez was able to kind of work on setting those traps for Andrade, and I like that he set those traps. But then after that second round, it was all David Benavidez. David Benavidez was putting it on Andrade, just leaning in on it, using his body, kind of establishing that pace. Andrade had a brief spell of establishing the dominance and putting Benavidez on his back foot, but it only lasted so long, and then it was stopped. It should have been stopped earlier, I believe. He really had to show the ref a lot, but I think they let him go to see if he can compete, and ultimately the corner did a great job stopping that fight. I think the Plant fight should have been stopped. I don't think the Plant fight should have made it that long, but it's good seeing the monster show you what is worth. Show you that he is ready to take on Canelo Alvarez. Show you that he is ready for whatever comes towards him. And it's good seeing Boo Boo Andrade going up, stepping up in weight to take on David B, to show that he was ready to get one of those big money fights. Now, I got to see what goes on next. We saw Jermall Charlo on this card. He's shooting for a shot at Canelo. We saw David Benavidez on this card shooting a shot for Canelo. We saw Andrade on this card shooting for a shot at Canelo. Andrade loses, Charlo wins, David B wins. Who does Canelo choose to fight next? I don't want to see a Munguia. I don't want to see Munguia, but I want to see this David B fight. I want to see Charlo pick David Benavidez for the simple fact that's two of the best guys in boxing. They both pack the stadiums. Canelo's the cash cow of boxing. They're both at 168. It's kind of hard for Canelo to go anywhere. Like, where does he go? The ring is kind of closing in on him. You know this is the best fight that you can make at 168. Canelo fought on PBC last card. I'm not going to say excuses, but the excuses you can't make any more excuses for Canelo. He has to take on this competitive fight. I don't want to see Jaime Munguia. I don't want to see Edgar Berlanga. I don't want to see another European trash dude that just comes over here that has a random mandatory or something like that. I want to see a competitive fight, David Benavidez versus Canelo. Can he make that happen? I don't want to see Charlo either right now. I want Charlo to get one more fight at 168. I want Charlo to go fight Boo Boo. Charlo go fight Edgar Berlanga. Charlo go fight Morrell, even though I want Morrell to kind of still keep on working. But I don't want to see Canelo fight anybody aside from David Benavidez. Let's make that fight happen. What do you have to say for it, boxing fans? This is Lance Hayes with Sports Social Live. We're covering everything from boxing to football and back. Check me out on YouTube. Check me out on Rumble. Check me out on Facebook. Sports Social Live. Let's get it. Big, big, big.